You've probably seen claims like up to 50 miles or 100 kilometers on a single charge, pretty often when searching for an e-bike to buy. But how much can you really trust those numbers? Well, the truth is these specs aren't completely false. They're typically optimistic guesses based on perfect conditions that don't always match how we actually ride in the real world. And this is the complaint you'll mostly get from the electric bike users. That's why today, we thought of breaking down the truth about e-bike range. What's behind those shiny numbers, and why can they be misleading if you're not careful? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to expect when it comes to how far your e-bike will really take you. So the first thing, why specs aren't accurate? Well, when manufacturers test an e-bike's range, they do it under near-perfect conditions. Conditions that don't really match how we ride in everyday life. Like a lightweight rider on a completely flat road, tires filled to the perfect pressure, no wind resistance, and the motor set to the lowest assist level. In this ideal setup, a bike with a 500 watt-hour battery might claim a range of 50 miles, assuming it uses about 10 watt-hour per mile. Sounds impressive, right? But here's the catch. Real-world riding is nothing like this controlled test. Think about your own rides. You're probably dealing with hills, stop-and-go traffic, strong headwinds, and speed changes. Maybe you're carrying a backpack or even towing a trailer. These factors all force the motor to work harder and drain the battery much faster than those up to 50 miles claims suggest. The reality is, the range you actually get will depend on how and where you ride. And it's pretty obvious to get changes in those claimed numbers. So, if you've ever wondered why your e-bike runs out of juice sooner than expected, it's not just in your head. It's because the advertised range is based on an ideal world that simply doesn't exist in real life. Now, let's talk about the battery effect a bit more. When checking an e-bike's range, battery capacity is one of the biggest factors, but it's not as straightforward as it looks. Say, for example, the 672 watt-hour unit in the Aventon Level 0.2 commuter. On paper, if you divide that by a baseline energy use of 20 watt-hours per mile, you'd expect to get about 33.6 miles on a single charge. Sounds like simple math, right? But if you see their claim, it's up to 60 miles per hour. The whole thing stays on that dash up to, because in reality, the range is never that predictable. Think of it this way. If you're riding on a flat road, pedaling steadily, and using just a little motor assist, you might even exceed that resulted range. You might catch 45 to 50 miles. But the moment you hit steep hills, crank up the throttle, or rely heavily on the motor, your battery will drain much faster. That 33.6 miles could also easily drop to 15 or 20 miles at that moment. It all comes down to how much power your motor needs to support your ride. If you're in eco mode and pedaling most of the time, you'll get more miles out of your battery. But if you're in turbo mode, blasting up hills with full motor support, your range will shrink fast. So battery capacity is important, but don't take the range estimate at face value. It's just a rough guideline. How far you actually go depends on how you ride. Now, there's another key fact that's connected to the range. It's you and the terrain. If you're 120 pounds and cruising along a flat road with no cargo, you're probably going to see your e-bike's range hold up pretty close to the specs. But if you're closer to 250 pounds or carrying a trailer with camping gear, that motor is going to work much harder, and your range is going to take a hit. More weight means more work for the motor, and when that happens, your battery drains faster. Now, if you're riding on smooth, flat pavement, your motor barely has to do any work, so your battery lasts longer. But when you hit rough, uneven trails, things change fast. Your motor now has to fight against gravity, and that drains your battery much quicker. The committed range from the manufacturer might be possible on flat ground with full of your assistance. But if you're tackling steep inclines, that number will surely drop. This is especially important if you love off-road adventures. If you're planning to ride through mountain trails or hilly landscapes, just know that your e-bike's range will take a serious hit. So, if you're heading into rough terrain, plan ahead and be ready for a shorter ride before needing a recharge. Beyond the bike and your own weight, believe it or not, the weather has a big say in how far your e-bike can go. If you're riding in cold temperatures, anything below 10 degrees Celsius, don't be surprised if your range takes a hit. That's because lithium-ion batteries, which power most e-bikes, don't perform as well in the cold. In fact, as the temperature drops, so does your battery efficiency. A typical 50-mile range on a warm day might shrink to just 40 miles or fewer when it's chilly outside. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so cold is bad, but warm weather should be perfect, right? Well, not exactly. While your battery won't lose capacity as quickly in the heat, extreme temperatures can still cause overheating, which may slightly reduce efficiency or even shorten the battery's lifespan over time. And then there's wind, one of the sneakiest range killers. A strong headwind can make your ride feel like an uphill battle. It will force your motor to work harder and drain your battery faster. So, if you're planning a long ride, nature can make a huge difference, and it's always something to factor in. So, these are the key things that affect your e-bike's range and hide the truth from you. And since we are done with the problems, let's talk a bit about how can you get the most out of your e-bike's range. First off, forget about expecting perfect conditions. The reality is that your range will depend on your riding style and how you manage the variables around you. So the thing you can do is go easy on the throttle. Use pedal assist more than full throttle. It saves battery and makes your ride smoother. Before every ride, if it's possible, check the tire pressure. A pair of underinflated tires creates more drag, so your bike's motor has to work harder and the battery will drain faster. To avoid that, just do a quick check of the tire before leaving for a long ride. If your bike has different riding modes and you want to maximize your range for the day, try to stay in eco mode as much as possible. It's the most efficient option since it uses minimal motor power and helps conserve battery life. Try to keep your load as light as possible. Every extra pound makes your motor work harder and drains the battery faster. The lighter you travel, the easier it is for your e-bike to maintain a good range. And if you really want a realistic idea of how far your bike can go on a single charge, don't just rely on the manufacturer's claims. Check out user reviews and forums where real riders share their experiences. Advertised range numbers are often based on ideal conditions, but in reality, the actual distance can vary a lot. So, can you trust the range specs? Yes, but with some skepticism. The numbers you see are benchmarks, great for a baseline, but they don't always tell the full story. What you'll get on your ride depends on your weight, the terrain, and how you ride. Some brands exaggerate more than others, and there's no universal standard for testing e-bike ranges, unlike how we compare gas mileage for cars. But with the right expectations and a little bit of knowledge, you'll be able to gauge what your e-bike can really do. When you buy your bike, take those range numbers with a grain of salt. Start from there, but understand the factors that affect how far you can go. And most importantly, have fun. Don't let range anxiety keep you from enjoying the ride. Just keep these tips in mind, and you'll be riding further than you expect. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, leave a like for us and subscribe to our channel. And if you have any say about the truths of e-bike's range, let us know in the comment below. We'd love to hear from you.